Choose FI, Your Blueprint to Financial Independence, by Chris Mamula, Brad Barrett, and Jonathan Mendanza. Introduction. Imagine this for a moment. You're an accountant. A good one. You've done everything right. You went to a good school, got the right certifications, landed a stable corporate job. You have a family, a home, a life that looks, from the outside, like the very definition of success. But on the inside, something feels off. There's a quiet hum of frustration that follows you into the office each morning. It's the little things. The mandatory meetings that drag on for hours, accomplishing nothing. The pointless rules that seem designed only to prove who's in charge. For a man named Brad Barrett, that final straw came on a perfectly ordinary day. A new memo went out. All employees, it declared, must now arrive at 8 o'clock sharp, instead of 8:30. It was a power play, plain and simple. It had nothing to do with productivity, and everything to do with FaceTime, the absurd corporate ritual of chaining yourself to a desk to prove your worth. And in that moment, something inside him snapped. He went home that night and told his wife, "I can't do this anymore. I'm out." A few days later, he walked into his boss's office and quit. Now, most people in that situation would be terrified. They'd be shackled by a mortgage, car payments, and the gnawing fear of an empty bank account. But Brad wasn't most people. He had a secret. A superpower, he called it. He had spent years building what the community calls FU money. Not enough to retire forever, perhaps, but just enough to say no when the world tried to force him down a path he didn't want to walk. That single decision, that act of choosing freedom over fear, is the very heart of the book we're exploring today, Choose FI, Your Blueprint to Financial Independence, created by Chris Mamula, Brad Barrett, and Jonathan Mendanza. This isn't just another book about saving money or picking stocks. It's a manifesto for a different way of life. It's a collection of stories, strategies, and a powerful mindset that has sparked a global movement of people who are quietly rejecting the life they're supposed to live, and instead, are designing the life they truly want. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to share with you the blueprint they've laid out. We'll uncover the shockingly simple math that can cut your working career in half, and then in half again. We'll learn why the key to wealth has less to do with being a brilliant investor, and more to do with becoming something they call a valuist. And most importantly, you'll discover that financial independence isn't some far-off dream for the rich and famous. It's a mathematical certainty, available to anyone who decides to choose a different path. It is a superpower, and by the end of our time together, you'll know exactly how to start building it for yourself. Book summary. Most of us are walking a path we never consciously chose. It's a path laid out for us from birth, paved by schools, parents, and society. They call it the standard path. You know the one. Get good grades, so you can get into a good college. Get a degree, so you can get a good, high-paying job. Use that job to buy a nice house, finance a couple of new cars, and maybe, if you're lucky, squeeze in 2 or 3 weeks of vacation a year. Then you work, and work, and work, until one day, somewhere around age 65, you're finally given permission to stop. For millions, this isn't just a path, it's a hamster wheel. A relentless cycle of earning money just to pay for a lifestyle that requires you to keep earning money. It's a life lived out of alignment, where we say family and relationships are what matter most, yet we give the best of our time and energy to a job. The authors of Choose FI argue that this path is not a mandate, it's a choice. And there is another choice you can make. This alternative path begins with a moment of awakening. For some, it's a dramatic event, like the car accident that shook Joel and Alexis, a young couple of engineers who were mindlessly blowing through their income. One day they were spending over $100,000 a year on discretionary stuff without even knowing where it went. The next, they were staring at a totaled car and realizing how fragile it all was. That close call was their catalyst. They went from saving 7% of their income to over 80% in a single year, not because they suddenly loved deprivation, but because they had found a purpose, buying their freedom instead of more stuff. For others, the awakening is quieter. It's a slow dawning realization, a nagging feeling that there must be more to life. It's what Scott Reekins felt living a dream life on a beautiful beach near San Diego. The more success he found, the harder he had to work to pay for it all, until he realized he was rarely even there to enjoy it. His awakening came from a podcast, an interview with a blogger who called himself Mr. Money Mustache, who spoke of living a better, happier life while spending dramatically less. This is where the journey to financial independence, or FI, truly begins. It starts not with spreadsheets and budgets, but with a single, powerful question: why? What is the life you are running toward? Is it the freedom to spend your mornings slowly sipping coffee with your spouse, instead of rushing out the door? Is it living in the mountains, surrounded by nature, like Liz and Nate from Frugal Woods decided they wanted? Or is it simply reclaiming control over your time, your most precious and non-renewable resource? Once you have your why, the authors explain, the how becomes shockingly simple. Financial independence, they reveal, isn't about being a genius investor or earning a massive income. It hinges on one critical factor: your savings rate. This is the core idea from that famous Mr. Money Mustache blog post, the shockingly simple math behind early retirement. Your savings rate, the percentage of your income you save, determines how quickly you can leave the rat race. Think about it. If you save 10% of your income, it takes you 9 years to save up enough to cover 1 year of living expenses. But if you save 50% of your income, you save 1 year's worth of expenses every single year. At that rate, you can reach financial independence in about 17 years. If you can push your savings rate to 75%, you're looking at just 7 years. This simple math reveals the secret engine of FI. And that engine is powered by 3 fundamental levers you can pull. You can spend less, you can earn more, and you can invest better. The rest of the journey is about learning how to pull these levers effectively. The first and most powerful lever is to spend less. Now, for many, this brings up images of extreme frugality, a life of rice and beans, holy socks, and joyless sacrifice. But the authors reframe this completely. This isn't about deprivation, it's about becoming what they call a valuist. A valuist is someone who consciously aligns their spending with their values. They spend extravagantly on the things that bring them true joy and fulfillment, and they mercilessly cut spending on everything else. Brad, one of the creators of Choose FI, values travel and family experiences. So, he figured out how to use credit card rewards to take his entire family, including grandparents, on a trip to Disney World that should have cost over $4,000, for just $150. But you'll also see him wearing a free t-shirt and flip-flops, because he doesn't value fancy clothes. He's a valuist. To become a valuist, you first have to know where your money is going. You have to track your expenses. Not to judge yourself, but to see if your financial reality matches your stated values. Once you have that clarity, you can apply the 80-20 rule and focus on the 3 biggest expenses that hold most people captive: housing, transportation, and food. For housing, the book introduces a radical concept called house hacking. This is what Chad Coach Carson did. He bought a 4-plex, lived in 1 unit, and rented out the other 3. The rent from his tenants paid his entire mortgage. In one move, he eliminated his single biggest living expense and turned it into an income-producing asset. Others do it by renting out a room, living with roommates, or simply choosing to live in a smaller, more affordable home instead of buying the biggest house a bank will approve. For transportation, the logic is just as clear. A new car is one of the fastest ways to destroy wealth. It loses nearly 20% of its value in the first year alone. The FI community embraces driving perfectly reliable, yet older, used cars. Brad and his wife drive cars that are over a decade old. They haven't had a car payment in years, and they estimate that one decision alone has added over $100,000 to their net worth. And then there's food. This recurring expense, made up of small daily decisions, can have a massive impact over time. The solution is simple: cook at home. Jay, a geologist who was trying to get his family on the path to FI, realized that he and his wife were spending an astonishing $24,000 a year just on eating out and convenience. By planning their meals and cooking together, they not only saved a fortune but also rediscovered a shared activity that made their lives better. Once you master spending less, you create a gap between what you earn and what you spend. The next lever is to widen that gap by earning more. But this isn't about simply chasing a higher salary at any cost. It starts with a crucial decision, often made long before your first paycheck: the college decision. The book challenges the conventional wisdom that you must go to the most prestigious, expensive university you can get into. For some careers, doctor, lawyer, engineer, a degree is non-negotiable. But for many others, it's a piece of paper that comes with a mountain of debt. Jonathan, another of the book's authors, calls his decision to go to pharmacy school his biggest financial mistake. He graduated at age 28 with $168,000 in student loan debt. It took him years of intense focus just to get his net worth back to zero. The book proposes a new approach: hack college. This means finding ways to get the value of a degree without the crippling cost. It's about choosing community college for the first 2 years, where the credits are cheap and often transfer. It's about applying for niche scholarships, like the one Cody Berman used, where he wrote 5 template essays and mass applied, netting him nearly $20,000 a year. It's about finding an employer who will pay for your tuition. Or, for some, it's about skipping college altogether and pursuing skills in high-demand fields like coding or the skilled trades, where you can start earning and learning from day one. Once you're in a career, the goal is to treat it like your biggest investment. ESI Money, a former president of a $100 million company, explains that your career is a multi-million-dollar asset. A small increase in your starting salary or your annual raise percentage can compound into hundreds of thousands, or even millions, of additional earnings over a lifetime. The key to unlocking this growth is to relentlessly focus on adding value. It's about managing yourself, continuously learning and developing new skills. And it's about managing your boss, understanding what they value most and over-delivering on it. To truly accelerate your career, however, you need more than just skills. You need a network. This isn't about slimy corporate networking, handing out business cards at stuffy events. It's about building genuine relationships based on a simple principle Jordan Harbinger calls ABG: always be giving. You help people, you connect people, you add value to their lives without expecting anything in return. And paradoxically, that generosity creates an army of people who want to help you succeed. It was this spirit that brought Brad and Jonathan together to create the Choose 5 podcast in the first place. With the first 2 levers, spending less and earning more, you create the fuel for financial independence. The third lever, invest better, is what turns that fuel into a perpetual motion machine that will power your life forever. Here again, the book shatters conventional wisdom. Most people think investing is impossibly complex, something best left to expensive experts. The authors reveal that this complexity is a myth, often perpetuated by a financial industry that profits from your confusion. The most effective path for most people is, in fact, the simplest. It's a strategy championed by J.L. Collins in his book, The Simple Path to Wealth. You invest your money in low-cost, broad-based index funds, essentially, buying a tiny piece of every major company in the market, and you hold on. You don't try to pick winning stocks. You don't try to time the market. You simply buy the entire haystack, not the needle. As Warren Buffett himself advised for the management of his own estate, this simple strategy will outperform the vast majority of high-fee professional managers over the long run. The key is to control what you can control: your own behavior and, most critically, your fees. A seemingly small 1 or 2% fee paid to an advisor can devour over half of your potential nest egg over a lifetime. So, how much do you need to save? The community uses a simple guideline known as the 4% rule. Based on historical data, it suggests that you can safely withdraw 4% of your investment portfolio each year, adjust for inflation, and have a very high probability of never running out of money. To figure out your FI number, you just flip the math, take your annual expenses and multiply them by 25. If you need $40,000 a year to live, your FI number is $1 million. This rule powerfully illustrates why spending less is so crucial. Every dollar you cut from your annual spending is $25 you don't have to save. That $100 a month cable bill isn't just $100. It's $30,000 of your freedom, $100 by 12 months x 25. The simple path of index fund investing is powerful, but it's not the only way. For those with a more entrepreneurial spirit, there's the active path: building a business. Todd Tracyter calls this creating equity out of thin air. Instead of investing money, you invest your time, ideas, and sweat equity. This path offers unlimited upside but also comes with perceived risk. However, the book shows how to de-risk entrepreneurship. You can start a side hustle while still employed. You can follow the lean startup model, like Brad and Jonathan did, spending only a few $100s to get started. You flip the traditional model on its head. Instead of building something and then trying to sell it, you sell it first to see if anyone will actually pay for it. The third path is a hybrid of the other two: real estate. Real estate allows you to use two powerful forces: sweat equity and leverage. You can use your skills to find and fix up properties, adding value directly. And you can use leverage, borrowing money from a bank, to control a large asset with a small amount of your own capital. Your tenant's rent then pays down your mortgage, building your equity for you. This path, when managed wisely, can be one of the fastest routes to generating passive income. The beauty of this blueprint is that you don't have to choose just one path. You can combine them. You can house hack a property to eliminate your living expenses and invest the savings in index funds. You can build a side hustle to generate extra income to buy a rental property each year. You choose your own adventure. And this brings us to the most important lesson in the entire book. The journey to FI is not a grim, 10-year prison sentence you must endure to finally be happy. Financial independence is not a destination. It's a spectrum of progressive freedom that begins the moment you decide to take control. As you pay off debt, you reach getting to zero, a huge milestone that gives you options. As you build an emergency fund, you gain a cushion against life's uncertainties. As your investments grow, you reach the point of FU money, giving you the power to walk away from a toxic job. Each step along the path grants you more power, more security, and more choice. Chris Mamula, the book's lead author, admits that for a time, he lost sight of this. He became so focused on the finish line, so regretful of past financial mistakes, that he couldn't enjoy the present. Brandon, the mad scientist, had a similar experience, isolating himself for 2 years in a hyper-focused pursuit of his goal, only to realize when he finally reached it that nothing magically changed. His happiness hadn't been waiting for him at his FI number. It was something he had to cultivate along the way. The ultimate goal, the authors conclude, is not early retirement in the traditional sense of endless leisure. It's what Jay from Slowly Sipping Coffee calls a fully funded lifestyle change. It's the freedom to design a life of purpose, autonomy, and mastery. It's the freedom to fail, to explore, to pursue work that you love without being driven by the need for a paycheck. It is the rediscovery of possibility, the realization that you were, in fact, born to do more than just pay bills and die. It's the power to finally live out the advice we give to our children, that you can be, and do, anything you want. You just have to choose it. Commentary. As we wrap up our journey through Choose FI, it's hard not to feel a sense of profound optimism. This book is more than just a financial guide, it's a powerful reminder of our own agency. In a world that often feels chaotic and out of our control, the message here is refreshingly simple. Your choices, especially your small, daily financial choices, have the power to fundamentally reshape your future. What I find most compelling is the way the authors redefine success. The standard path defines success through external markers: the job title, the size of the house, the brand of the car. It's a life built around looking rich. The FI path, in contrast, is about being rich, not in possessions, but in time, freedom, and options. It's a quiet, internal victory. It's the stealth wealth community that values a 50% savings rate more than a luxury SUV. The concept of the valuist is, for me, the book's most transformative idea. It's a release from the consumerist pressure to keep up with the Joneses. You suddenly realize the Joneses are broke, stressed, and trapped on the same hamster wheel you're trying to escape. Being a valuist gives you permission to be different. It allows you to say, "No, I don't care about that, but I care deeply about this," and then to put your money where your heart is. This shift from unconscious spending to intentional living is the foundation upon which everything else is built. The second powerful lesson is the de-risking of life. The standard path is presented as the safe option, yet it's incredibly fragile. It leaves people one paycheck away from disaster, tethered to a single employer for their income and healthcare. The FI path, which might seem radical, is actually a journey toward profound security. Having a high savings rate, multiple income streams, and zero debt creates a level of resilience that few people ever experience. It gives you the power to weather economic storms, to navigate unexpected life events, and to take calculated risks on your own terms. So, how can you start applying these principles today, right now? Here are 3 simple actions. First, just for the next 30 days, track your spending. Don't change anything, don't judge anything. Simply become an observer of your own financial life. Use an app or a simple notebook. This active awareness is the essential first step, the awakening that starts the journey. Second, calculate your savings rate. Take your total monthly savings and divide it by your total monthly take-home pay. This single number is your most important financial metric. It tells you, more than anything else, how long your journey to freedom will take. Knowing your starting point is empowering. And third, answer the question, why? Take 10 minutes and write down what a life of freedom would look like for you. Be specific. What would you do with your time if you didn't have to trade it for money? This why will be the fuel that carries you through the challenges and keeps you focused when the allure of the standard path tries to pull you back. That was a summary of Choose FI by Chris Mamula, Brad Barrett, and Jonathan Mendonça. We certainly covered the core ideas today, but a summary is like looking at a map of a beautiful country. It shows you the layout, the key cities, the major roads, but it can never replace the experience of actually walking the streets, breathing the air, and meeting the people. The true power of this book lies in the dozens of individual stories and the detailed, practical advice that bring these concepts to life. If any part of this journey has sparked something in you, a flicker of hope, a sense of possibility, I encourage you to pick up a copy. Reading it isn't just about absorbing information, it's about joining a conversation that could genuinely change the direction of your life. You can find a link to the book in the description below. Also, if you found this summary valuable, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It lets us know we're on the right track and ensures you won't miss our next deep dive into another life-changing book. Let's keep learning and keep growing together.